Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know everybody's got a busy schedule. My name is Paul Campanella. I'm with the Greater Monroe Chamber of Commerce, and this is Joe Gianzetta with the Woodbury Chamber of Commerce. We thank you for coming out. We thank the Monroe Woodbury Central School District for allowing us to use the auditorium tonight. The two chambers believe you need to be informed before you go vote, and so we're honored to present this forum for you tonight. And we want to thank Christine Durham. I know I was going to kill it. Durham from Bumblefly for she did a lot of the legwork to get this all prepared and ready. So he and I stand up here, but she's behind the scenes getting all the work done. So we hope you get what you want out of this tonight. Thank you.
We are also picking questions that the public provided by random, by drawing, and whatever questions are not able to be answered tonight because of time constraints will be supplied to each of the candidates. They have 24 hours to respond on all the questions, and all of those answers will be posted on the Woodbury and Monroe, the Monroe and the Woodbury Chamber of Commerce websites, as well as the Monroe Woodbury School District website. Tonight is also being recorded. That video of tonight's event will be posted on all three websites as well. So basically, in fairness to each of the candidates, between who's here tonight, what questions they have to answer, fairness to the public to be heard with every single question being addressed, you will see that we are taking any unanswered questions for this evening, posting that on the website, providing with the candidates who were not able to attend tonight, posting those on the website as well as the video. So I just wanted to tell you about that format. We are allowing each of the candidates to provide a 2-minute introduction of themselves. We are conducting approximately a little over 2 hours in the Q&A. With our expected time frame, we will be pretty much asking about 7 questions. Each candidate has 2 minutes to answer the questions. We will be starting with our candidate here, Don Beeler, and working our way down the table. Don Beeler will be answering the first question first, and then he, just like all kids do, you go to the end of the line, and then the next person in line will answer the second and so on question first. So each candidate has an opportunity to answer the question first, last, and in the middle. We also have our moderator here. We were very cautious as to who we chose to participate with us. This is Elise Terhune. Elise is an attorney from Tuxedo. She resides in Tuxedo and is on the Tuxedo, in the Tuxedo-free, union-free school district. She is an attorney in the area of municipal and land use law. So thank you, Elise, for being our moderator today. Before I turn it over to Elise, we'll just quickly introduce who our candidates who are here tonight. We do have 9 candidates for 3 seats. So this is a very interesting year for us, and I would like to start with Don Beeler, Stephen Straber, Dan Israti, Jonathan Huber, Martha Lopez cannot be here this evening. We do have an introduction video on her behalf. John McDonald, Carol Kerr, Don Hoolan, and Rick Wormley also cannot be here this evening. Again, those who were not able to attend will have an opportunity for their presentation on our website. Thank you. Thank you, Christine.
I will draw a question, random. We will have the first speaker step up to the podium. I will let you know when you have 2 minutes. At about the 30-second mark, I'll let you know 30 seconds, and then I'll call time. Excuse me, you're doing your introductions first. I apologize. I was just so excited to get right into the questions. And
good evening. Let's see if this works. There we go. Maybe I don't know if you can see that with the lights, but so one thing it doesn't say there is I've been married 32 years, so this is my first introduction to speed dating. The whole concept of 2 minutes is kind of interesting to tell your life story. My wife and our two sons graduated from Monroe Woodbury. We've been here about 28 years. We love the community. We're very, very active. My wife runs the Sacred Heart clothing store. I also am pretty involved in Sacred Heart, as well as I work with the various sports organizations here to help take photography and things of that nature. Why am I qualified? So I am my profession is I'm a board advisor and an investor. I sit on quite a few boards at this time. I'm on Orange Regional, Catskill Regional Hospitals, as well as quite a few other privates, as well as I'm on another school board right now too. What I do for a lot of companies, I come in and prepare it. A lot of times it involves reorganizing the boards. A lot of times it involves reorganizing the people within the company, just to make them, I guess, work better or fix them. I am, as I mentioned, I'm very passionate about Monroe Woodbury. They did a fantastic job with both of our boys. One of our boys has some mental health issues, and Monroe Woodbury is just phenomenal at providing all of the services that he needed to be successful.
30 seconds.
This is a chart, and I like to use this to show if boards aren't effective, if they don't do their job. This is the Fortune 1000. This is how many companies fell out of the Fortune 1000 because the board did not stay focused. They did not do their job. They didn't provide a strategy. This is the tax levies that I've seen in Monroe, and as you can see, the current board, the current administration is doing a fantastic job. The reason for putting this up there is everyone here who's been here for any amount of time knows we've been through some pretty bad times. And what we're all here to talk about tonight is improving the Monroe Woodbury system. This is not broken. This doesn't need to be fixed. This is just, let's see improvements go as we go forward.
Time.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mr. Straber?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Straber. What can I start by saying about myself? I moved my family from Long Island 2 years ago to the area because of the school district, because of its reputation of being the best in the area. I uprooted my son out of high school, my youngest one out of the elementary school. We left everybody behind to come up here. For the last 23 years of my life, I've served communities with the NYPD as a community affairs officer. I believe solely in serving communities. While I don't have charts or presentations, just myself, this school district is facing a lot of issues, from the core curriculum, the teacher evaluations, to Curious Joel. It's a lot of things that a board needs to come together and work on. We need to work with the administration so that our kids' futures will stay the way it is. Our budget's good. Our property taxes, they are what they are. I'd like to see them lower, but that's something the board has to do to work on. Other than that, there's not much really more about me, other than the fact I'm here for you. This isn't political, this isn't some kind of personal agenda for me. I'm here to make sure that the kids of this district, where I have a younger one in middle school and my oldest one's in high school,
30 seconds.
continue to get the education that they deserve. Thank you.
Dan is ready.
Good evening. I'm Dan Israti. I came to Monroe Woodbury just like Steve 4 years ago because of the schools. This is where I wanted to raise my kids. This is where I wanted them to grow up. This is the community I wanted them to be a part of. We moved from Rockland up to Monroe, and we have met so many wonderful people, gotten involved in so many different groups. I mean, if you got kids, you know you're running nonstop between the sports, the dance, the music. It's you know nonstop on the go. But everywhere we went, we met people that showed us this was the right place to be. We knew coming up here the taxes were tough, you know, and I believe I'm paying so that my kids can get a great education. Would I like them to be lower? Absolutely. I commend the board for the work that they've done, for the administrators with the district, how they've worked to keep the taxes under the tax cap. Would I like to see it lower? Absolutely. Can it be done? I think it can. I think that work needs to be done. I think we need to think outside the box for it and explore every single option. One of the biggest issues coming down the line is the annexation. I know it's on the mind of lots of people. I teach in East Roundabout. I grew up in East Roundabout. When my family moved there in 1984, it was the top district.
30 seconds.
It was the place you wanted to be. I have seen over the past 30 years the district spiral because of special interest groups, and what they want out of the school is not good for the community. It is something we need to prepare for strategically, not for today, not for tomorrow, but over the long run. And without doing that, we are facing incredible challenges that we all need to live with. Thank you very much.
I don't have charts, but I've written this down because I want to remember who I am. I'm John Huberth. I've been a homeowner in Monroe for over 35 years. Our two daughters were educated in the Monroe Woodbury system. My wife is a remedial math teacher at Pine Tree Elementary. I graduated from Amherst College and the Yale School of Drama. I'm presently an adjunct professor of theater at Manhattanville College, and I own and operate an educational film company that makes films for colleges, universities, and nonprofit organizations. Anybody out there, I'll give you my card. I was on the board for 9 years, and one is president. Don't hold that against me. I want to build on the notion that the Board of Ed should operate as a collegial organization, respecting differing opinions, but working together to advance our children's education. I feel the same way about the district's administration. Policies must run our district, not personalities. Cooperation should run our district. In the past several years, our district has reduced personnel without sacrificing programming. It has kept tax increases low. But there are concerns looming on the horizon. How much can be cut without cutting what we should be providing our children? What is the future of state aid, the proper implementation of the Common Core curriculum, and what are the implications of the potential annexation of land by Curious Joel, something that could profoundly alter the well-rounded curriculum Monroe Woodbury proudly offers our students and that support the values of our homes. I'll share more, I presume, about issues as the evening goes on. Thank you.
Martha Lopez has provided a video introduction.
Lopez. I'm running for a seat on the school board for various reasons. Many of you who know me know that my family and I, we believe in community and service. Many of you, like me, have legitimate concerns. As I was out campaigning on Saturday, a few of you approached me with wonderful questions, and I would like to answer them again today. One of the questions asked was whether or not I believe in cutting programs. The answer is no. For 15 years, I worked in the music industry, where I acquired sponsorship, proposed, negotiated, and finalized touring budgets for many well-known artists. As a result, this gave me a deep appreciation of the arts. I vow to fight for our children, to save all academic, sports, and music programs. Another question I was asked was how I felt about the annexation. Sadly, the DEC still has not declared lead agency. There are still so many unanswered questions. At this time, I do not feel comfortable giving a formal statement. But what I can say is that anything which infringes upon our programs, our resources, or the quality of the progress of our district will not be supported by me. I'd like to wish all the other candidates good luck. And just a little reminder why we're all selflessly trying to give of our time. For our community, for our children, and for their families. Everyone else, please remember to come out and vote Tuesday, May 20th. And know that you, each and every one of you, can make a difference.
As a Monroe Woodbury alumnus, I won't tell you when, a longtime Monroe resident and taxpayer, a parent and a grandparent, and a senior citizen and a retiree, I have diverse and useful perspectives to contribute to board discussions. I've been on the board for 3 years. I know that taxes and annexation of land in to Curious Joel are the huge topics in Monroe now. As a current board member, I've had some part in keeping taxes under the 2% tax cap. And as a committee head, I've learned about the problems and possibilities of dealing with the annexation issue. I've learned about the problems, nevertheless, the core business of schools is educating children. And there are some important concerns about the current trends. The mandated core curriculum was enacted with minimal, if any, field trials, and has been implemented by the state in an ineffective way. Testing problems have become more common rather than less so. Sponsors say we will know if it works in 20 or 30 years. But we cannot wait that long. We need to be sure changes we are making now will be good for all students. Through privatization of products and services that were previously done by government, corporations are getting more and more of the local state money into their accounts. Districts and state governments themselves have become dependent upon them for tests, testing review materials, and the tests themselves and the grading of tests. We need to change some of that. What kind of education should we have? Perhaps I'm old-fashioned, but I've always liked Aristotle's sense of a well-educated person as someone who is developed intellectually, morally, aesthetically, and physically, and who is able to utilize all of their abilities on the lines of excellence. We need to ensure that Monroe Woodbury students continue pursuing the best possible education so we can still educate students to not only be successful in their work, but also be involved and caring citizens.
Carol Herb.
Hello, and thank you all for coming. I am Carol Herb. I'm a resident of Woodbury for 40+ years and have 4 children who have passed through the Monroe Woodbury Boards. I recently retired from Monroe Woodbury, where I worked in the finance office at the high school. I am also the tax collector for both the town of Woodbury and the village of Woodbury. I am an independent thinker who has a compassionate nature that allows me to care deeply about what I believe in. And I believe in Monroe Woodbury. It is an excellent school district. As finance officer at the high school, I was involved with creating a budget for both department chairs and the principal. We focused on what was needed and what could be cut and still give students the resources to succeed. This experience is unique to me and sets me apart from my other candidates. I actually know when tax dollars were spent at the high school because I did the ordering and I typed the purchase orders. I will work to create a fair budget that educates our children while being considerate of taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Don Hoagland.
Hello, thank you for coming out tonight. I'm a mother of 3 grown children. I own a home in Highland Mills. I'm currently a teacher in Peekskill City Schools, and I used to be a classroom teacher in the Bronx, so I know what it's like to teach math and English, and I'm presently an art teacher, so I know what it's like to teach 650 students a week. I'll start by saying that I am totally against the annexation as it stands. I'm against anything that would negatively impact our school community. I'm sure that every one of the candidates on this stage is in agreement on that subject. So what we're really here to find out is what distinguishes us from each other. How do our opinions differ on how to balance providing the best education possible to our students while keeping our budget under the 2% tax cap, which I'm committed to do. Everyone brings something different to the table. I think the purpose of the school is to support students in their unique quest to find out what their individual strengths and gifts are. And I also think that it's important to support teachers in their efforts to be creative role models for students and to inspire our students. So, as a taxpayer and a property owner, I'm very interested in the fiscal responsibility of our school district. We need to look at each program individually and assess the value to the students in the district, considering the money we spend on it. Is our budget equitable when we have to make cuts? Do we cut programs, all programs equally? The only thing that is not on the table during this process is privatization. I will never vote for
30
something
seconds.
that would jeopardize the safety of our students or the quality of services offered. I will not choose to do things that are penny-wise and pound-foolish. I will also try to work with all board members to make sure our expenditures are for developmentally appropriate items and curriculum. I'm all for technology, however, I don't think it's wise to spend lots of money on computers for kindergartners, especially to test them. I think that they need to be manipulating objects in their hands and dealing with people on a social level to develop their healthy minds. So things like that.
Time. Rick Wormley is not here tonight, so we won't be hearing an opening from him. Okay, we'll begin with the questions now. And I've been soundly told that you can sit at your tables and answer these questions. So I'm going to randomly pick one. And this will be presented to Don Beeler first. How much time do you envision it takes to fulfill the responsibilities of a school board member? And are you prepared to make a 3-year commitment to the community?
The amount of time that's going to take with any school board or any board in general, it varies depending on the players that are on the board. It depends on the issues that are at hand. Sometimes it takes a considerable amount of time. Other times it can take quite a bit less. But like I said before, I've been a Monroe resident for 28 years. My interest is keeping my property values up, the number one reason. Number one thing that people look at in property values is the school district. So the short answer is I'm here for the long haul.
Thank you. Mr. Straber.
The time it's going to take to sit on board, yes, 3 years. And I wouldn't be up here if I wasn't ready to make that commitment for 3 years. The one thing I can promise everyone in this audience and everyone in the district that's going to watch the video is that I promise I'm going to review the packages that the board sends out, do my own research on all the topics, and bottom line, make my own decision, okay, on what is the best for this district. And they ask how many hours, and so it's not a matter of how many hours. I'm going to be here until the job is done right, because that's the way it should be. There's no saying I'm going to donate 10, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. It doesn't work that way. The people on this board, the ones that want to be elected to do this job, we have to make that dedication to this district and to the community that we're serving. It's the community that's voted us into these positions. I don't see saying I'm only going to spend an hour. I'm going to spend as much time as need be in a day to make sure this job is done the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan is right.
I'm going to echo the sentiments of fellow candidates. I'm going to put in the time that's required, the time that's needed to make sure the job is done right. As for commitment, I've been thinking about this since I put my paperwork in, almost a month ago. This is not a job that you could just take lightly. You have thousands of children, thousands of families, taxpayers, all relying on the decisions you make. Anybody who walks in and does this in a cavalier fashion is doing them a disservice. Everybody worries about their family, their kids, their home value. This altogether, you have to worry about not just for you now have to worry about the entire community. Monroe, Woodbury, parts of Chester, Tuxedo, Blooming Grove. It's a big responsibility. When it comes to time, I will be there for the time that is needed, absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped Mr. Heber. I apologize.
That's all right. My answer is quick. A lot of time is the answer. And it varies week to week, and it depends upon what problems the district is facing at the moment. As I said, I was on the board for 9 years, so I certainly know what commitment it takes, and I was willing to do it then, and I'm certainly willing and able to do it again. My job during the day is flexible, so there are various things that I can do to make time when needed to do something immediately, if something immediately has to be done. So I know what the job entails, and I'm certainly ready to put in the hours, and there are a lot of hours, and do the research. We're never, as a Board of Education, going to know everything. We can't know all about school law. We can't know all about the budget. But what we have to do is to be able to oversee the clean and clear running of this district to make sure that it runs correctly and that everyone is allowed to do their jobs well and make the students, putting them in an opportunity where they can learn up to their capacity and when we put in the time. I know what the job entails. That's enough.
Thank you. Now, Mr. McDonald.
Okay, I'll speak from my current experience. Regular meetings, I've been spending probably about 2 hours a week at regular meetings, which include, when we can, going to the County School Board Association. I'm a representative for that. Usually I've been spending about 2 hours at a committee meeting every week on annexation. And I usually spend quite a bit of time reading as background for education. I read the New York Times, I read a number of the educational journals. We get automatically, as a school board member, you get magazines that come to you from the National School Board Association, the State School Board Association, and messages and things from the local ones. So usually I spend a number of hours doing that. And then what's most enjoyable to me as a school board member is I go out and I see things like the Beauty and the Beast, dragging my grandchildren with me and my wife, and or going out and watching the sports that are going on behind the high school and behind the middle school. I'm a big fan of tennis, especially because I play tennis here. And so I like to go and watch teams play tennis, or I like to watch soccer. It's one of the pluses that we have
30 seconds.
Being able to go out and see so many kids participating in sports. It's one of the great things about Monroe.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
When I decided to run for the Board of Ed, I cleared with my family that Maddie would not be available at all times to babysit. Promised my senior partner that I would still make time to travel with her. But my first commitment will be to Monroe Woodbury. It has always been my first commitment. As an employee of the district, as a parent of the district, as a union rep of the district, I have given all to Monroe Woodbury and will continue to do so. Sitting on this board, to me, being voted by people in the school district is an honor, and I will not betray their confidence for me to act speak, and work on their behalf. Thank you.
Ms. Hoagland?
I've been attending board meetings for the past year, and I usually step up and use my 3 minutes to make a public comment. Sometimes I get a response, usually I don't. I spend a lot of time writing articles on education for the Woodbury Gazette, and I spend hours and hours researching, like John McDonald and all of the education journals and blogs. So, and I'm the one out in the rain with the sign whenever there's something that needs to be protested. So I'm already very politically active, and I'm ready to make more of a commitment to my local community as opposed to the broader U.S. Not instead of it, but just get more local. So I look forward to working on the board as many hours as it takes to make some necessary changes.
Thank you. Can everyone hear the candidates? Yes? Okay, great. We'll move on then to question number 2, which Mr. Straber will answer first. What is the relationship between board members and teachers?
I feel the relationship between the board members and the teachers is one of respect. There's a chain of command with the board members. The board members work with the superintendent of the school district. The superintendent oversees the employees of the district. That's the way it should always be. A board member cannot tell a teacher, a bus driver, a maintenance person what to do. That's an employee of the district. That's the job of the superintendent. Board members' responsibility, plain and simple, is to make sure that the schools are run effectively. Do the curriculum, balance the budget, set standards, set goals. It's the superintendent's job to make sure all of that is done. For me, it's a respect at the end of the day. We all have to respect each other, but I have to respect the superintendent's job. And that's what my feelings are.
Mr. Israedi?
The board is there to set policy, but the board is there to support the teachers in their mission. Their job is to educate the children of the community. Their job is to make sure that they get the best education possible. The people on the board are the ones with the power to set the direction for the school district, to provide the tools and the resources and the allocation to make sure that that gets done the best way possible. Teachers know what they're doing. That's why we're in this district, because the teachers do an outstanding job educating our kids. The board needs to make sure that we back those teachers up and we give them all the support we can possibly do to make sure that they continue to excel at their jobs and give the best education possible.
Thank you. Should I skip Mr. Hubert today? No, I don't. Mr. Hubert.
I don't get nervous. Basically, the Board of Education has 2 functions. It's to set the vision and the policy of the district, and it's to hire the superintendent of schools and make sure that everything runs well. It is not to go out and micromanage. It is not to go out and meddle with what the teachers are doing. On the other hand, the teachers are where the rubber hits the road. It's where it's happening. And so we can be cheerleaders also in this district, as Mr. McDonald said, going to events, supporting our teachers and supporting all of the programs that this district affords our students. I mean, my 2 kids have wonderful teachers and a wonderful experience. What we need to do is empower our teachers. They're under a lot of pressure with testing and, the whole litany of things. We need to make them make sure that they are doing the job that they need to do, that they're enthusiastic about doing it, because the children will pick up that enthusiasm and will want to learn because they become excited about the passion and excitement that the teachers give. So what can we do? We can go out and, as I said, cheerlead for this district and empower the teachers to do what they need to do.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
I've seen this from both sides. As a teacher myself, I taught at Highland Falls for 30 years, history and social sciences, and being on the board. And it's a very different perspective you have in those two situations. The thing about teaching is teachers are basically, most of the time, autonomous. They go into a classroom, they close the door, or sometimes they leave it open, but they're generally there with their students. So they know what's going on in their classroom. The students know what's going on in their classroom. But from the point of view of the board, I think one of the things that I feel is, after my 3 years on board duty, call it that, is that it's a different side, and it's very hard to get a good perspective on what's actually going on in schools and in the classroom. It's always comes to you filtered in some way. But I think I agree that we need to support our teachers, and we are able to find out in some ways that they're working, that their teaching is successful, and that our children are progressing. So as long as we see those things, we feel confident that our system is a good one, and we should keep persisting in the path that we're taking at that time.
Thank you. Ms. Herb? Ms. Herb. Or Miss Herb, whatever you
It doesn't
prefer.
matter. The Board of Ed has to work closely with and respect our teaching staff. That's done through multiple ways. You have the principal in the building, you have department chairs, you have group leaders, and you have all of them, except for the principal, teaching in the classroom. They're the ones who take the programs that we help to introduce, and they implement that to the students. And as everyone knows, when you're teaching something, you have to have the flexibility to enhance it. Sometimes things work, and sometimes things don't work. So the teacher is the person in the classroom who has to modify daily how they're teaching the students to reach all the students. And the Board of Ed has to be ready to help with those improvements. Not all of it can be done at the same time. We have budget constraints, but certainly with the programs we have here at Monroe Woodbury, we've always managed to take a basic education instrument and enhance it to keep in tune with the times. And I think that should continue with the relationship between the Board of Ed and the teaching staff.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
I agree with what other candidates have said, that we're not here to micromanage, but that we are here to support our teachers. I also agree that the board is here to set visions and make policies. But I think that the board is also here to oversee what's going on and to make sure that there's some accountability. So something as simple as reenacting the practice of having incident reports submitted to the board on a quarterly basis from every single building, I think that would be a great idea. Because I think defining a problem early can lead to solutions in a timely manner. So there are things that we need to do in terms of seeing what we're making expenditures on. Are they really working or not? We really need to analyze what we're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Israti, you're up next for question number 3. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I'm going to skip you next. I'm going to skip everybody once tonight. How about that? I'm sorry.
This is a very important question. One of the things the board is responsible for is looking at strategy. This involves looking out far. So when we do that, we have to understand how it impacts the school. We have to understand if we're going to be implementing new technology, if we're going to be doing things like Common Core, if there's going to be changes to it. We have to understand how much training we have to put into the budget. What do we have to do to support the teachers so that they can do their job? As I mentioned when I first got up there, I have tremendous respect for the teachers in Monroe. They did fantastic with both of my kids. And as a board member, our biggest responsibility is making sure that we think of a strategy that we include the training cost of getting people up to speed that they can use it. This is also, in my experience with boards, this is a fairly big issue. What you'll find on most boards is there's two basic groups of people. The people who understand what they're supposed to be doing on a board, and the people who think they're supposed to be running the school. And this is a very big problem. Our job is to work with the superintendent and to work with the strategy. Our job is not to run the school. And it pretty much, you'll see a lot of conflicts on boards because people don't understand the rules.
Thank you. Okay, good thing I'm not one. All right, question number 3, Mr. Israeli. Who hires and evaluates the school district's superintendent? And who hires and evaluates the other employees of the school district?
I think the superintendent is evaluated by his work that he's done over the years with the district. Ultimately, it's the Board of Education that's going to be looking at the superintendent. Mr. Merhoff, as some of you might know, his contract is coming up at the end of this school year. It's the job of the board to take a look over his term and say, has he been doing a good job? Has he been doing an outstanding job? For evaluating of teachers and other staff throughout the district, we put our faith and our trust in the administrators, the upper level at central administration, the building principals, and so on. They're the ones who have boots on the ground in the schools. They're the ones who are having a daily contact with the teachers and all of the staff. They're the ones who are best suited to evaluate the staff that's working under them.
Thank you.
Mr.
Huber?
Right. The Board of Ed evaluates the superintendent. The Board of Ed hires the superintendent and evaluates yearly, or should evaluate yearly, the superintendent. When I first came on the board, sometimes the superintendent was evaluated, and sometimes the superintendent was not evaluated yearly. So we had to put some policies into place. You can't be sloppy. We cannot be sloppy. So that's what it is. The superintendent is hired and evaluated by the Board of Education. And then, as the other people have said, or probably will say, it goes down the food chain, shall we say. Principals will finally evaluate, be part of the evaluation for classroom teachers. So everyone should be evaluated. Every year, the Board of Education is given recommendations for teacher advancement year by year, and is discussed in executive session with the Board of Education. So we get to hear about all of this, and if we have for some reason a problem about it, we can voice our problem. But we hear from building principals and we hear from higher level central administration about evaluation processes. But we do not do the evaluation except for the superintendent.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I think everybody is right in line with each other on this. The superintendent is evaluated by the board. What's unusual about the current situation is the state, and as part of the No Child Left Behind and the Race to the Top, has been required to develop an APPR program, which a certain amount of teachers grades for the year, in a sense, are dependent upon testing, and some other kinds of qualities that are assigned. People that don't teach ELA or elementary math sometimes have to be evaluated on kind of artificial standards that they develop and are developed in the schools. So it's become a lot more complicated than I think it was a few years back. And it's one of the things that I think requires a lot of time for administrators in the work that they do. They're spending a lot of time evaluating teachers on these kind of complicated formulas.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
As everyone has said, the Board of Ed is the group that evaluates the superintendent. In the school buildings, the principal will evaluate teachers, department chairs will evaluate teachers, and the process of hiring teachers is usually through the principal, department chairs, and maybe other co-teachers. But everything ultimately ends up before the Board of Ed for approval when we're hiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
Just to reiterate, the board obviously just observes the superintendent and not the teachers. But something that the board can do, since they do set visions, policies, and goals at the beginning of the year, rather than allow an entire year to go by, they could have a mid-year analysis of the superintendent to see if he's met the goals that were set before that time period, and then do it again at the end of the year. I think that's a great idea. And as far as the teacher evaluations, I'm working politically at the legislative level of the State Board of Regents and Department of Education to get rid of the unfair APR laws that we have right now, because as an art teacher, for instance, I'm being graded on how children do in their English class. That's no relevance.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler?
The board's only responsibility for hiring is the superintendent. However, as we put together strategies, we want to know that those strategies are being implemented, and then we need feedback for it. So the other thing that we do is we'll ask the superintendent, we'll set goals that we need to monitor. How frequently we monitor and what those monitoring methods are vary, but the real answer to the question is the only person that we are responsible for is the superintendent.
Thank you. Mr. Straber?
I feel one of the board's most important responsibilities is the hiring of a superintendent. I feel that it should be done with a lot of background, a lot of checking. You want the best person you possibly can hire there. In regards to evaluations, as everybody on the board said, panel up here, is the fact the board's job is to set policies and goals for the superintendent to meet, the budget, the curriculum. If he doesn't do that, then a negative evaluation. But evaluations themselves, I feel, coming from a job that we get evaluated every single year, they should be done fairly and logically. If he's done a good job, then he gets a good evaluation. If he does a bad job, he gets a bad evaluation. The same thing for the teachers. It's not my job to evaluate the teachers. It's the superintendent's job to evaluate the teachers. It's my job to evaluate the superintendent, or whoever the superintendent deems to go do those evaluations. But everybody should have a fair evaluation. And with Common Core curriculums coming out and the teachers' assessment, right now, my hat's off to them because it's got to be a hard job to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hubert, you will have question number 4. What are your thoughts about these 2 influential topics? 1, Curious Jewel annexation. 2, proposed Caesars luxury resort and casino.
In 2 minutes. You've got to be kidding me.
I didn't set the rules.
Oh, but speed dating, you're right. I'll probably have to post some of this. Those are 2 huge topics that are facing us at this point. I actually wrote some stuff down because I figured that. I mean, the annexation issue certainly has risen to the top of the list in this region, and people have expressed opinions about it, and it's polarized a lot of the community. I wish we weren't faced with this annexation, to tell you the truth, but we are. I'd like it not to happen, but it might. I'd like the issue to go away, but it won't. So what are my thoughts as a potential Board of Ed member? The district remains an interested party in the potential annexation, but the state took the district out of the running of lead agency. We don't know what entity will be lead agency or how it will play out. And the district has little control, unfortunately, over the annexation. It, however, can influence the process. of annexation if that happens. The district can and should be concerned about the implications, and I'm sure it is. The least impact on the school district would naturally be if the annexation did not happen, and what the district must do is develop a strategic plan to deal with the potential annexation. The district needs to develop a concrete sequential
30
plan
seconds.
to respond to unfolding events, and it must make that plan public. The Board of Ed can clearly lay out the implications of the annexation to our school system, and the Board of Ed can and should communicate its strategic plan clearly. Casinos and resorts, we should ask them. 3 might be in this community. We can, if they'll give us $10 to $13 million in revenue, what else can they give us? How about internships? Or a field?
Thank you very much. Mr. McDonald?
I think the annexation issue is a very complicated one. It has effects on various government units, the towns, the villages, the school district, and so forth. I wouldn't say that a strategic plan is what we need. I would say we're in a chess game, and we need to think about the moves that we're going to make. We need to have them based on factual information and the best interests of our students and our community. I think it's not something that we can easily say, well, we should do this right away or we should do that right away. It's something that is more complicated than that. I also think that one of the things I've talked about in our committee is that this is somewhat of a new phenomenon, even for the people that are living in Curious Joel, that we've had many examples in the country's history of religious groups that have come here to separate themselves, to segregate themselves. In fact, the Pilgrims were also known as separatists because they wanted to live alone and separate from other religious groups. So that's they left Holland because their children were starting to speak Dutch and things like that. So it's not we're not looking at an old phenomenon, we're looking at a kind of a new phenomenon in the issue with curious children.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
The current board has a committee on annexation, and I believe that they've been very outgoing, telling us what's going on and what their place is between all the communities with this annexation. I have concerns, as we all do, about encroachment by our neighbors. I will work with the board then in their attempt for a fair and reasonable outcome for our non-Woodbury students. About the casino, I have a little more to talk about. New York State has chosen to fund education revenue from gambling. There are 120 plus undeveloped acres that would house a casino hotel with no impact to population, classrooms, or services, while increasing revenue to county, towns, and school districts. This choice versus clustered housing that would impact population, services, and schools seems to be the most beneficial to our community at this time. Also, this property currently generates several thousands of dollars in tax dollars. Those dollars will increase to several millions. The Woodbury Common currently gives the school district over $4 million in tax dollars. They give the town of Woodbury $2.5 million in tax dollars. The casino would generate much more, as well as Metro North possibly giving us a second line and shuttle buses to and from Manhattan that wouldn't end at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
Regarding the annexation, of course, the board and the whole Monroe Woodbury District would use every legal resource we could to fight it. And that will just, it remains to be seen what the issues will come up. You know, that's going to develop. We are not a lead agency. We're an interested party, and we will do everything in our power to mitigate any negative impacts to the school district. As far as the casinos go, I have a more nuanced opinion. I don't really feel like casinos are something that develop the human mind. I don't really see it as a great opportunity for jobs for our students. I know people are very excited about possible revenue that can be generated for the area, but I also know that many times the state will make deals with casinos and say that, sure, come on in and build, and we will guarantee that if your business goes bankrupt, we will take the risk. We will take 40% of the risk. This is what's happening in Atlantic City right now. Because now that New York has opened up casinos, of course Atlantic City is dying. So it's not always the rosy picture that you think it might be.
30 seconds.
And, you know, I want people to really think about, do you really want a casino everywhere you look? Thank you.
Mr. Bueller?
I think on the topic of KJ, it goes without saying, elections have consequences. And I think everybody in here is feeling that pretty much. I do think the school can play a very, very important role. As we've all discussed here today, one of the things we need to do is strategy. We need to understand what the impact of cost of educating people as we add more people into our district. If we're going to end up with two scenarios. One is KJ has their own school district. The other is we're stuck with the bill. Right now, the average student in Monroe Woodbury is under $18,000. The average bill for a student in KJ right now is $105,000. So this is a massive, massive issue. And we need to get behind this in a very, very strong way and articulate these type of financial impacts to the DEC and to the state and make our voices heard very, very strong so that people understand this is not some simple decision. This is going to really hurt this community. In addition, it's going to really hurt Orange County. And as far as the casinos, other than I don't think their students cost, the people that would move in, they might not cost $105,000 to educate per year. I really see it as the same fundamental issue. We need a plan that says 1,000 more people come into our district. What's it going to cost? If we lose 1,000 people in our district, how does it impact? And I think when you look at all of these issues, the underlying, as far as how it will impact us, is what are the needs of the students. If it's 18,000, that's one plan. If it's 105,000, that's a pretty tough pill to swallow.
Thank you. Mr. Straber?
I was started with Curious Joe. The issues with Curious Joe and the roads in Norwood, it's disturbing everybody. I see 800-pound gorilla in the room right now. Unfortunately, information that we need from the current administration, we don't have. These are the people that can give us a hypothetical answer that if 30,000 more people were to come into the district, like United Monroe is putting out there, that what's it going to cost us? Our tax bills, the burdens. Okay, Mr. Israeli works in Ramapo where he said the district is, the schools are shot. I don't want that here. However, I can't make an educated decision on the fact that he said, she said. There's no information out there for us right now other than the fact that this annexation, and we're waiting on the DEC to make a decision who's going to be the lead agency. And then you have lawsuits that's going to follow, and we all know that. If it has a negative impact on the school district, by all means, I'm not for it. I will not even risk taking programs away from our kids and cutting any kind of teaching job. We have one of the best teachers, staffs here. Now, in regards to the casinos, I attended the South Blooming Grove meeting
30 seconds.
with the casino. they want nothing from us. They want to pay for new roads, pay for sewers, they want to pay their tax burden. They want to give money to the school district. That lowers our tax levy down. If you're going to go with a casino like Atlantic City, and that's a bad idea, by all means. If you're going to go with a casino like the Turning Stone Casino up in Verona, New York, they're pumping money into the district. The area is healthy.
Time.
Thank you.
Mr. Israel.
I'll go in the opposite order, just to go against the grain. With the casino, I tend to look at it as the law of unintended consequences. When Clarkstown brought the Palisades Center Mall in, everybody was looking at the dollar signs. They're looking at how much money it's going to bring into the community, how much it's going to add to the tax rolls, and all of the financial windfall that goes along with it. What they didn't look at was the crime that's going to be generated through that mall. I've spoken to police officers who go through that mall, and they say it's a haven for gang activity. You have a burden on the community for increased traffic, increased people coming from outside the area, and it has led to crime increasing in the immediate area. Myself personally, yeah, I'd love to see a ton of money come into the district. I'd love to see more rateables. I'm not willing to have a casino in my backyard for it. That's just my feeling. I don't want my kids growing up with a casino down the road. As much as I'd like to see the cash, put something else there. Put a professional building, put an office. Find something else that can go in there that'll still generate revenue for the district, but not bring other problems along with it. As for Curious Joel, I think most people are baffled at the Monroe Town Board and how they have, voted to allow this to go on, and almost like a farce of acting on behalf of the residents of Monroe, and their actions are affecting the entire district of Monroe-Woodbury.
30 seconds.
The district has very little say in what's going forward since we've been denied lead agency status. Like Mr. Bueller said, we need to start doing projections now for the future. And when it comes to those students, what is it going to cost us? Where are they going to go? And they will not come to our schools. They will not mix with our community. They will stay by themselves.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald, question number 5. Do you agree with the annual professional performance review? And if not, how do you think the district should measure teachers' performance?
Right, that's an interesting question. I disagree with the performance reviews that have been put into effect by the state and the state's request, and also across the whole country. I don't think they're fair. I don't think they measure actual progress of either students or teachers. For example, if you have a class of honor students and they have an average grade of 96, and next year they have an area of grade of 96.5, you would be considered a failure as a teacher because you didn't meet the amount of progress with those students. I know that as Dawn was saying before, that they try to use artificial means of measuring students based on the performance of students in ELA classes and math classes. And so an art teacher or a French teacher or a history teacher may be evaluated, or a gym teacher, for example, might be evaluated on the progress of the students in the ELA program, which doesn't give you any statistically significant results. Similarly, with students in poor neighborhoods, 30 seconds. with students in poor neighborhoods, you're going to drive the best teachers out of the classroom in those places because it's much easier for them to come to a wealthier district and their progress will look good, and as opposed to staying in those districts and helping the students who are struggling the most.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
I think APPR is a bad way to create a teaching accountability. Using test scores as part of teacher accountability is just one poor way to ensure that there is a good student-teacher contact. There's more to a relationship between a teacher and their students than tests. New York State wants to ensure that every teacher uses their professional ability to teach all students, to prepare them for college and for a working career. That's great. Teachers are already doing that. They don't need testing success or failure to be part of that equation. They need students who get help from home, from parents, do homework, and work to prepare themselves within the teaching environment that's been established for them. And at Monroe Woodbury, the amount of time that teachers use to be with their students, to help their students, the overachievers, the underachievers, and all the students, is invaluable. And to just take that and base it on a test score is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
You've got Governor Cuomo, who has taken $800,000 from charter school investors for his campaign. I say that at the beginning because my thesis is that the APPR was actually invented for the purpose of failing students and therefore failing teachers by tying student scores to the teacher's evaluations. If a teacher gets an ineffective for 2 years in a row, their tenure means nothing. They can be fired at that point. All the teachers in a school are fired, principal is fired, the school is closed, they open a charter. This is the plan. They want to privatize education. It's a way of getting rid of local school boards, local control, getting rid of public schools, and just opening up the charter situation for all of the hedge fund managers on Wall Street that have been just blessed with a New York State law that makes grants from New York State to charter schools a very lucrative proposition. So it's a very unfair system. It's designed to fail teachers and students. It makes students feel horrible when they fail tests, and it makes teachers feel useless when they're being evaluated on something that they're not even doing. We had an excellent system for evaluating teachers. It's called Principals Observing Teachers.
30 seconds.
Have always had the opportunity to fire teachers. So when I hear people say, oh, you can't ever fire a bad teacher, that is not true. All the principal has to do is document that a teacher is ineffective and has been ineffective and is not doing their job, and that teacher can be fired. That's already in place. We don't need the APPR for that.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler?
This is just basically doesn't work. Anyone who's ever taught a class knows if you give a teacher one class and it's all honor students and they behave really well, you can do pretty good. If the students have senioritis or some other issues that suddenly pop up, how do you measure the students' behavior against these kind of tests? It just fundamentally doesn't work. It's pretty simple.
Thank you. Mr. Straber?
I thought it was my turn to be skipped.
Do you want me to skip you? I don't think so.
When I was doing research on this, for some reason AARP kept blocking in my head. And my wife kept saying, are you talking to residents or senior citizens? And I'm like, why? APPR is a requirement of the state. Like the Common Core curriculum, according to Governor Cuomo and all his announcements and his videos on TV, it's not going anywhere. But it's failed. It doesn't work. And like I said earlier, everybody should be evaluated fairly and logically on what they do. All employees should be accountable for their jobs. If you're good, you're good. If you're bad, you're bad. Not on a testing score of a child. I have an 11-year-old in the middle school. I see his grades, okay? And then I have the senior in high school, I see his grades. I can't judge both of them on what the teacher's doing. Some tests come home, he's 100, other tests comes home, he's a 70. It's their studying habits at home. And I don't feel that this evaluation system is good. And the Monroe Woodbury teachers, I got to meet some of them. They're the highest quality I've seen in a long time.
30 seconds.
So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Israeli.
I get evaluated on APPR. All right? It's a hard system. When I first got hired, you go through the tenure process. It's like a 3-year interview where you're looked at. You have no job security. You could be cut at any time. 2 years in, 3 years in, see ya. That's the job of the building principal. They're the ones who are evaluating you throughout the entire process, not when they walk into your room twice a year to watch you do a lesson. APPR is a mechanism to make parents feel better. It doesn't necessarily make sure that they're better teachers. When you evaluate a teacher, you're looking not just their test scores. That's really the secondary portion. What is their relationship with the student? What is their involvement with the school? What is their involvement with the community? I can look around my building, and I know the teachers that are good teachers. And I know the teachers that I wouldn't let anywhere near my own kids. But that falls on the building principal, and that's something that can be looked at over 3 years. If you're a good teacher, you're a good teacher. Nothing's going to change. If you're a lousy teacher, you're going to know it right off the bat. APPR, I don't particularly care for it. It's the state putting out things. I think the teachers that my children have had, my daughter is in 5th grade, my son's wrapping up 3rd, have all been outstanding. Other parents that we've spoken to, friends of ours who have kids, all they do is rave about the teachers and the education they get, which tells me the building principals, the chair people, they're doing their job, and we're getting the best kind of teacher we can get.
Thank you. Mr. Huber?
I have a little different take. I'm a teacher at college, but I'm not in the trenches in public school, and it's tough. But the annual professional performance review has been around for years. And the teachers and principals, it covers principals too, are subject to this annual review. And the reason that it's been getting attention, and up here too, is that it's been updated to include student achievement in the mix of criteria. Observation, in this district at least, observation and evidence is 60% of the review. Student achievement is 20%. I understand that teaching to the test is a terrible idea, especially when you have terrible tests. So the devil is in the details of this thing, but it's law. It's a requirement of the State Commissioner of Education's regulations, and the Board of Ed is not going to be able to repeal it. So what do? The idea behind it is valid in my view. Teachers become more accountable for the outcomes of student achievement. What's the problem? Well, the rollout, for one, was terrible, like the Affordable Care Act. APPR was another nightmare.
30 seconds.
The State Department should have created a uniform evaluation tool so that each district would have to create their own. And it should have been fair and rational across all the districts. Most teachers, I believe, support the notion, and the district successfully collaborated with the teachers and administrator unions 2 years ago on this and came to an agreement on that. The intent of this in the Common Core is to improve learning. teachers have to ensure that their students are learning what the teachers are teaching.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody. I'd actually like to proudly announce that we blew through 5 questions already within the first hour. We are slated to continue with this program until 10 o'clock tonight. So the plan was that we would only ask 7 questions, but because everybody's going so smoothly, they don't have to get up, we are going to actually take a 5-minute break and continue with questions, so we will get more answered in person this evening. To the audience and count. And right before our break, we had 99 people and 2 more walked in. So we did have over 100 people here tonight. I'm very proud of that, and thank you. I'm not sure if they're all going to come back after the potty break, but for those who stuck it out, thank you. But for those who came, really sincerely, thank you for being here. And also, just to help the concentration of our answers, rather than saying 30 seconds, we will just be saying 30.
If everyone looks at me when they talk, I can go like that.
But good luck. You guys are doing a great job. Everybody here. I know it's not easy to collect your thoughts in just 2 minutes, but you're all doing a wonderful job at that. Thank you very much.
Okay, new question number 6, Ms. Herb. What is your view of the proposed 2014-2015 school budget, and do you support it?
Having attended the meeting at the Board of Ed when Superintendent Miro and his cabinet presented the budget to the board, and having attended Monday night meeting when the superintendent and Jeff White presented it to the public, I have to tell you that I was given a full overview of the proposed budget. Using very creative budgeting methods, employee attrition, breakage, consolidation of services, etc., Mr. Miro was able to present a budget that met not only New York State tax cap requirements, but at the same time kept programs, staff, sports, as well as some capital improvements and more. As a board candidate and taxpayer, I fully support the proposed budget that the Monroe Woodbury voters will have an opportunity to vote on May 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
I think it's a fair budget, considering we have to stay under the 2% tax cap. I think they did a good job of maintaining programs, as Carol said, and using attrition of teacher retirements rather than firing teachers to reduce the expenditures on teachers. There might be some changes that I would make, but that would be small issues. So I'm pretty pleased with it as it stands.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler?
I was very impressed with the budget, the explanation on the, in the last 5 years, what they've done with the finances, our credit rating. I think Jeff did a great job of really going through it and explaining to us, all of us. I was also impressed, there were questions from the audience about cutting programs. And I think Ed did a very good job of explaining. A lot of parents have asked me about, I think it's Expand, and the fact that it ended in middle school, it didn't extend into high school. There was a big misunderstanding on that the honors classes, because people were thinking, no, they cut this program, and I thought they did a very good job of explaining that, because that was some of the feedback that we got when we were standing out chatting with people. But I thought it was a very, very good budget.
Thank you. Mr. Straber?
I attended the budget meeting on Monday night with Mr. Bill and Mr. And I have to say, when you sit there and you look at a budget of $156.5 million, it's like, wow, that's a lot of money. However, when you look at what our kids get There were no programs cut. There were no teacher layoffs. And Jeff and Ed actually explained they added 3 more programs to the school district, where now kids don't have to go outside, so that's a savings for us. And I just look at it, if you look at the budget, because they had slides and it was very nice, that 10 years ago, we were at 22.8, almost 22% of a tax hike, compared to now we're only at 1.76. And it's amazing the job that they've done. Over the last 3 years, they've kept the budget down under 2%. When I lived on the island, we used to have budgets 3-4%, and everybody just, yeah, we'll keep open. I think they're doing an outstanding job with this budget, and I fully support it. I understand it's high, and everybody wants their taxes to go low. However, if you're going to lower the budget, you're going to lose teachers, you're going to lose programs, and bottom line, that affects our kids. That affects the education, okay? And it's going to affect the reputation of this district. And I don't believe in cutting programs.
Thank you. Mr. Israedi?
I think the administration's done an outstanding job, not only staying under the state mandated cap, but working in the best interest of the community, making sure that the tax impact on the homeowner is as minimal as possible while maintaining the outstanding programs that this district offers. Would I like to see a decrease? I think everybody in this room would. But we have to live within the rules that are set up for us, live within the actuality. The education that the district provides, the reputation of the district, the strength of our schools is directly tied to your property values. They go hand in hand. I cannot see cutting programs. I cannot see reducing staff. I see strengthening the schools. So I'm very happy with the budget. I'm very proud of the work that the administration has done to make sure that the impact is extremely small on the average homeowner.
Thank you. Mr. Hubert?
Everyone received this in the mail, or should have. So you can refer to that, and on the district website, you can look at this, print it out, or look at it on the website. It's pretty much the presentation that was given the other night. And there's a lot of detail in there about, you know, how much was saved in teacher retirements and how much was saved in bond refinancing. Something like $20 million has been paid off in the last 6 years because we've gotten the interest rates down. Moody's and Wall Street loves us. We have the highest rate at this point in the history of the school. At a time when 500 to 600 people are losing their jobs in education in neighboring districts, and neighboring districts are shutting schools, we're staying within a 2% property tax increase. We haven't laid off anybody. We haven't closed schools. We've been adding programs. Our arts and athletics and co-curricular programs are tops. Music and athletics are in the top 100 schools of public schools in the nation. We have low and stable taxes and low and stable expenses. Because we are under the 2% tax cap, all district homeowners will receive rebate checks this fall from the state equal to the tax levy increase.
30.
That means in actuality your taxes are not going up one bit this year, since the rebate offsets the tax levy increase. I just think that they're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
I voted for the budget enthusiastically. It was a very good budget. I just wanted to give a little aside to show you why budgets tend to go up at some time. This is something I read in one of the school board journals that just came to me, but it says all teachers, administrators need training on ELLs, that's English language learners, according to the SED, the State Education Department. And it says draft state regulations will require all teachers and administrators to receive professional development on the needs of English language learners, including training on language acquisition and ability to work effectively with diverse students. All school boards and district school leaders are responsible for ensuring that the academic, linguistic, social, and emotional needs of the ELLs are addressed. The interesting thing about the article is there's no mention of money coming to the school districts to help do these things, and there's no taking into account the fact that if you're going to have to do something in addition and find the time to do it. So one of the things that goes into the budgets are things that are required. We call them unfunded mandates, and they have a big effect on budgets.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland, it's your turn for question number. I'll leave that to the end. Question number 7. What are the responsibilities of the Board of Education and the superintendents of schools? I know, that's very similar to like the first or second one. Do we want to? Okay. Ms. Hoagland, how would you balance the programs and services and stay beneath the 2% tax cap?
Well, the budget is a great example of that. I don't know how to really expand on that other than the idea of using attrition as opposed to firing people. I think it's excellent. We would continue to analyze programs and see if they are worth the expenditure that we are making for them. If we do need to make a cut, we want to cut things fairly across all programs and not just, have to go towards one. I think that this present budget is a great example of ways to, as John said, to pay off the bond. Finance charges at a lower rate, and certain things to that cut lots of money. So it's just smart decision making on our financial officers, and excellent overseen by the superintendent looking at programs and what we want to maintain. We have excellent arts, excellent sports, excellent music. I'm glad that we were able to maintain those because, as we said, that our school district has a great name, so that attracts people to our neighborhood, and that brings our property values up.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler? How would you balance the programs and services and stay beneath the 2% tax cap?
Well, the right answer to this is that's not the board's responsibility, that's the superintendent's responsibility. The board doesn't run the school, they don't make those decisions. However, I was very impressed with some of the examples that were given the other night by the superintendent and the other administrators. One example, I know Hugh had these virtual field trips where they weren't expending gas, they weren't expending, kids weren't going somewhere, they were touring NASA virtually. They got a private tour, there's quite a few of them available. But I think fundamentally, this is really not a question for a board member because we are not the people who decide those types of decisions.
Thank you. Mr. Straber?
I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Beeler on that. It's my job to make sure that the superintendent's doing his job. And it's the administration's responsibility to put together a budget to meet the curriculum standards that we're setting as board members. We can look at programs, you can look at consolidating stuff, but again, that's not our responsibility, that's the superintendent's responsibilities. Again, attending the board meeting And really, Mr. Miller said, the virtual tours, I thought it was a great idea. I never heard of it before, Monday night. Where kids can actually go someplace and not leave the school. It saves money. And I'm all for anything that will save money for the district.
We did that in the 60s.
Are you finished? Thank you. Mr. Israeli.
I'll sound like a broken record. That's the job of the superintendent. They're going to evaluate the programs. They're going to see what works, what doesn't work, what are we getting the most bang for our dollar for, and they're going to make the decision. That's what they're there for. That's their job. It falls on their shoulders, not the school board. But, you choose a superintendent that you have confidence in, that will be able to take a look, evaluate, and make decisions based on, observations, by data, by feedback from building level personnel all the way up.
Thank you.
I think we've answered this question. I think the trick is to do it next year, and then the year after that, and then the year after that. How can we continue this? That's going to be on the assistant superintendent of finances and the central administration. It's going to be tough. Adding programs, cutting teachers, increasing the bond rating, keeping a rainy day fund that's sufficient. It's tough. May I be a politician and say something about casinos?
That's a good idea. Why don't we?
In my remaining, because
We do have closing statements, so.
Yeah. Well, I know. I just wanted to say that to a great extent, the school district has to adjust to what the community wants and the community brings in. Children, what the community wants as far as programs. So whether we embrace casinos or think that they're the devil incarnate is really not the job of the Board of Education. The job of the Board of Education, if casinos are coming in, is to maximize what we can get from the casinos. And if we can get $10 to $13 million, if we can get a new pool, if we can get there are various things that we can get, a field, a turf field. And by the way, turf field is not in any budget. And people are, I read a blog that said, somewhere in the budget is the turf field. Millions of dollars, how are you going to hide that? Anyway, we can't afford these things. We couldn't afford lights until a great community member put lights on them. So let's go to that.
Mr. McDonald.
I think that some of the things, when we look at budgets, when I look at budgets, some of the things stand out to me as kind of awkward. For example, in the budgets that we're spending about $500,000 on data processing. And we're spending, last year's budget, I think, about $16,000 on school supplies and science for the whole district. And there seems to be, there should be a better way of spending money. But I can't imagine how we can use $500,000 worth of data. I can't imagine if we put everybody in the school district looking at data every day and trying to make sense of it and to use it, that we would use up $500,000 worth of data. But I think it's very important to get things to the classroom. We have zero-based budgeting, but I think we need to have a budgeting that talks about how much money actually gets into the classroom for teachers to use with their classes. And I think that's something that we should look at in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
I agree that the Board of Ed does not do the budget, but the Board of Ed does hire a superintendent. And when you look for a superintendent, you want to evaluate what contributions and responsibilities that person has done over the years. We happen to have a wonderful superintendent in Mr. Miro. And working with his cabinet, you can see by the presentations how cognizant they were of the need of teachers in the classroom, of the education, of maintaining programs, not just academia, but all the other programs that Mom and Woodbury is so unique to offer, from the arts down to the sports. And to do that in such a way that he has not increased class sizes, he has not cut programs, he has not cut staff. He has done it through the tools that he was able to work with Mr. White and Mr. Monahan and Ms. Rodriguez to keep our educational system at the highest level while also maintaining excellent credit, reducing fund balances. I just think he should be applauded for this, and as I said again, it is amazing how he accomplished this while still saving tax dollars and coming in under the tax cut mandate to allow us to get rebates in November. So I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler, we've come full circle. And you get question number 8. If annexation is approved, would you support an alteration of the Monroe-Woodbury boundaries to remove the newly annexed KJ area into the Curious Joel School District?
I think this is a really dangerous question to ask us, because part of what's going on now is anything we say about this is going to be looked at as we approved it. So if we answer this question today and say, yes, we would do that, those questions are going to be put into the DEC package by KJ, saying, look, all the board members said they would approve it if it was already, if we approved it. So I think I'm gonna not answer that question, because I think it plays right into the other side as to where we're going. This is something that, if that happens, I think I'll give an opinion on it, but I'm not going to take a position and just feed that animal to go after my son.
Thank you, Mr. Straber.
I want to agree with Mr. Gill that it's a hypothetical situation that I'm not going to give an answer to, because there is no right answer to it. Either you say yes, it's going to come back, you say no, it's going to come back. So don't have an answer.
Mr. Israel.
There are too many unknowns, too many variables at this point to go either way. There are too many things that need to be explored, need to be looked at. And, you know, it's one thing to plan for it, it's another thing to come outright and give an opinion and give a decision without all the facts. So I'm going to agree with my fellow prospective candidates. I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you. Mr. Hubers? No casinos, please.
Casinos.
My wife is in the Monroe-Woodbury phone book, or with our contact information. I'm probably there as spouse. So you have my phone number, and it's in the phone book. And call me up and I'll give you my answer.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
No.
Ms. Herb?
I'm going to pass on
Oh,
that.
boy. Okay, Ms. Oakland?
No comment.
Okay. Mr. Straber, question number 9. What do you think the community is mostly concerned about related to the school district?
This past weekend, I was actually out doing some campaigning, a politician, as my oldest son would say, politicking, and I met the presidents of the community. A lot of the issues that the community has questions about is the Curious Joel annexation, how it's going to affect the district, and also taxes. And how, if I was elected as school board, on the school board, would I attempt to lower the taxes? Again, it goes back to the budget question. Unless the state decides to drop a load of money into the district, our taxes are going to be what they are. Jeff and Ed have done an excellent job of keeping the tax cap. And as John said, we're getting a check back this year from the state. It may be a one-time check, I don't know, it's an election year. I'd like to think it comes every year, but we don't know. So, issues that I feel facing the school district right now is Curious Joe and the taxes of the district.
Thank you. Mr. Israel.
KJ and taxes. Curious Joe is on the minds of everybody. It's something that, people are thinking about. It's part of the community. It could really change the fabric of Monroe Woodbury District. The DEC, they keep saying they're going to be announcing lead agency status. They're dragging their feet. You hope Albany is listening to us, but I have very little faith that they're actually going to be sitting up and taking notice, or at least acting on it. Taxes, that's also at the top of everybody's mind. The economy, they like to tell you on the news things are going great, things are getting better. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I don't think we're back to where we were pre-2008. The housing market, it's gotten better. I don't think it's where it needs to be. I think, from the peak, I know people who bought houses and, they haven't done so well. So taxes are also a major concern. Both of those together are really the top priorities, at least from what I've heard from speaking with people about that have to do with the Monroe Woodbury District.
Thank you. Mr. Huber?
I think the community is most concerned about preserving the district and the way of life that the district helps to create and represents in this community. I mean, the heart of the community is the school district. People have moved here, many of us, because of this school district, the quality of the district and what it offers, and we don't want to see it lose its identity and character. I did not move here for the school district. In 1977, I was a bachelor and I bought a summer cottage so that I could come up here in the summers and weekends and have a good time. And after a number of years, I got married, we had 2 children, and we then decided this is not the place as far as where we were living in New York City, where we want the kids to grow up. The school district is not good, let's look at school districts. We came up, we said, well, we'll start with Monroe, that's where our house is. And we were afforded close to an hour with the high school principal who showed us all around. Then we went to Rhinebeck, and we went to the high school there. All the offices were in the hallway. All the administrative office desks were in the hallway because why? The community hadn't supported a budget in years. We went over to Millerton and found the same thing. All of these ritzy places did not have good school districts. We said, the place that we're going to raise our kids and send them to school is Monroe Woodbury. We didn't come here for the school district. We stayed here for the school district.
Thank you. Mr. McDonald?
I agree with the issues with the Curious Joe and taxes, but I think that most parents are concerned about their kids, how they're doing at school, what activities they're taking part in, where they're going to go to college, things like that. So just the normal things that parents are concerned about. And community members are obviously concerned about some things with their housing values, that sort of thing.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
Out about community taxes are always, at least for the conversations that I have, but then I'm connected to taxes, so that would be natural to expect. But even though there are worries, complaints about taxes, it's one of those things we have to do. The underlying thing is that all the residents are very pleased that they live in our communities, that their kids go to the Woodbury School District. And when you talk to people and you get down to the basics of, even with the newer homes that have ridiculous taxes attached to them, the reason they moved here was from Woodbury. And Woodbury, they moved here also for the Parks and Recreation that we offer, which affords higher taxes. But if you get into conversations with them, no matter who they are, no matter what the complaints are, our neighbors are the biggest problem. But the school district itself is something that they've come here to belong to, have their kids go to, and are basically pleased with all the results they've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
With my conversations, I have found that people are very concerned with maintaining the quality of life in Monroe Woodbury and preserving the school district as it is now intact. And also, especially parents of young children are concerned about the new curriculum and the amount of testing that takes place at school, especially kindergarten parents, because the Common Core curriculum is placing students on computers and putting a lot of time into, like for second graders, they're doing problems that are coming home with math sheets and homework sheets that parents are finding difficult to even navigate themselves. So I'm finding parents are concerned with exactly what the curriculum is about, what the purpose of it is, why we're making these changes.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler?
I think the KJ issue overall is pretty overwhelming to everyone, and I think there's really two levels. One directly affects the school, but I think most people are, as we said earlier, elections have consequences, and I think a lot of people are worried at this point, should I be moving? Is this going to affect my house? Are we going to be able to get control over KJ, or is this just going to continue to go down? I think they saw a glimmer of hope with United Monroe, that they were able to get a block vote to counter them. And I think last week we saw, for the first time in a national newspaper, I think it was Bloomberg, carried an article. That is going to be what is going to change the mind of politicians, period. If we have the ability to have a block vote, they really don't care about anything else. That's what they care about. And I think there's going to come a point, and we talked earlier about strategy, I think there's going to come a point where, what do we do when the 4 or 5 families that basically own everything in KJ pick up and leave? What do we do then? And I think that's another part of, from a school's perspective, we need to have a strategy for all of this, because at some point politicians are going to be afraid to go in there because it's a sweatshop. They're basically producing Section 8. And eventually it's going to come down to an embarrassment for a politician to be associated with these people. And at that point, then the school district's going to be stuck with how do we deal with this.
Thank you. The final question, Mr. Israeli. Question number 10. You get to start us off. If you can achieve one goal in your 3-year term, what would it be?
The best thing I would want to accomplish wouldn't be anything that you can see, that you can grab onto. It would be preserving and strengthening the Monroe Woodbury School District. This district is too important to the community members, people who live here, to not put up a fight. To not fight tooth and nail against special interest groups that look only to benefit themselves. At the end of 3 years, if I were to be elected or would be to serve on the board, I would want to work with the board to do everything conceivably possible to make Monroe Woodbury a stronger district than when I started.
Thank you. Mr. Hubert?
Well, that's... What's not to agree? Preserve and improve the district. I'd like to ensure that the district moves forward with a clear vision from the Board of Education that is articulated and transparently presented to the public. I'd like to make sure that we empower the administration and the faculty and the staff to get that job done. And I'd like to strengthen the district policies so that policies run the district, not personalities. Cooperation trumps confrontation, and communication is strengthened with the board and central administration.
Thank you.
favorable to us. I would like to see some specific things. I'd like to see the development of better venues for students, parents, graduates, and community members to communicate their experiences and questions concerning the schools to the board. I'd like to see the development of the district's own objective evaluations of the new programs we have, such as the Common Core and modification of programs according to the results. I'd like to see the targeting our spending so more of it actually gets to classrooms for teachers to use with their students. I'd like to see increasing enrichment experiences, including field trips, real ones, for all students so that education is less bounded by school walls and the Common Core. Those are my things.
Thank you. Ms. Herb?
I would like to be with a Board of Ed that works cooperatively with each other and remembers to stay on task, that we are here for the students and the education programs of Monroe Woodbury. I would hope that for 3 years we have more interaction with our public who does ask questions but don't get answers. So whether they get the answers directly at the meeting or in a communication later on, I think that's part of the transparency where we have to learn to communicate with our population and community. And I would like also to have people serving on the board who come here as free thinkers and support their own ideas and move forward with them, and not as front people for others who may not have been able to be on the board but have strong opinions about how the board should dictate policy and education.
Thank you. Ms. Hoagland?
I would like for the lens of looking at students as creative human beings to be used by the board and by the superintendent and the principals in each school, so that their decisions that they make are for the purpose of helping each and every child in the district discover their own strengths and gifts. And if this is done, things will become simple. It will become obvious what we should expend money on and what we should not. And certain things like the Common Core would be immediately eliminated. I understand it's a state mandate and we can't just by fiat get rid of it from the board. But there are certain ways that we need to mitigate the damages that are being sent down from the Board of Regents and the state education department. I think that our local school board, we have the responsibility to set policies that protect our students and protect our teachers from these really unwise decisions coming down from the state. So I would like to see, as John said, more money to end up in the classroom, more support to end up for the actual teachers in the programs, and definitely less money on data mining and data collection.
Thank you. Mr. Beeler?
This one for me is pretty clear in that I would like to see that we implemented a long-term strategy, and I would like to actually see it starting to come true. I would like to be able to stop reacting to the revolt and reacting to things that happened yesterday, and I'd like to start to see that we actually anticipate changes that are happening both in the education system and in our community. And that's what would really make me feel good, is that, okay, we're ahead of this. We're no longer knee-jerk reacting to everything that happens in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Straber.
What I would like to see that at the end of 3 years of me serving on this board is that my experience and what I bring to the board benefited this district, where at the end of 3 years we have a board that can work as one with the administration to keep our taxes down, to keep the programs in the district, and maybe even bring in new programs to help our kids. Okay, ensure that we still have music programs, art programs, athletics for the kids. These are all things that I would love to see at the end of 3 years. It's just not one thing, it's a lot of things that I want. It's just the fact that right now, we have to work together. We have to respect each other's opinions. And going forward, and that's what I would like to see accomplished after 3 years on the board.
Thank you.
Although that question seemed perfect to end with, that wasn't our ending opportunity. We still have a chance for the candidates to provide their closing statements. Because we are a little ahead of time, we were going to allow them to have 1 minute to close with a closing statement. We will allow you 2 minutes to close. So you might just have an opportunity to discuss casino. Feel free to discuss as you wish as your closing statement. Thank you so much for your very professional, all of you, very professional contributions.
And please come to the podium. Well, you were next up, so.
I have a record of volunteering my time and my energy and my experience in service of this community. I was on the Monroe Conservation Commission and this Board of Education. I have no axe to grind. I have an understanding how the school board and the district should operate, a desire to serve, and an understanding of the time and energy it takes to do the job right. My family owes much to this district. Our eldest daughter, Eliza, graduated from Monroe Woodbury, went to Kenyon College in Ohio, a small but mighty liberal arts college. She's now finishing her 3rd year in the Juilliard acting program in New York City. Our other daughter, Madeline, went on to the University of Michigan, where she received her Bachelor of Music in Cello Performance and her Bachelor of Science in Physics. She went on to the Cambridge University in England on a Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship and received her Master of Philosophy in Music Studies. She's now studying for a doctorate at Stanford University. Well, la-di-da, what does that all mean? Well, it means that none of that would have been possible had it not been for this district. Its exemplary drama and music programs and the general education that our children receive from some absolutely terrific teachers. There's one. I mean, that's why I'm running. I'm running to pay it forward. I have a debt. I want to make sure that great learning opportunities continue for our children in this district. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald.
Mine will be a little shorter tonight. One of the people that graduated from Monroe Woodbury is Amy Goodman. She wrote a book called Democratic Education. She's currently the head of the University of Pennsylvania. She graduated around 1970. But she said something about teachers that I thought was very profound. She said teachers should be other-regarded, not other-directed. In other words, they should be able to take in what they see around them from different people, whether it's students, whether it's other teachers, and put those to use, think about them, and become better through that process. I think the same thing is true about board members, that we need to be other-regarded. We need to be concerned about the taxpayers in our society. We need to be concerned about our students. We need to listen to our teachers. We need to listen to parents. And we need to have access to those opinions. So I think one of the things that I try to do is try to get information from those people. And I think that's a model that we should follow as board members. That's my conclusion.
interested in the Board of Education when my children started school. I joined PTA and worked with Central Administration and board members. I've always admired people giving their time to give back to the community. I worked for Monroe Woodbury for several years, so I was not able to become a board member. But since I've retired and had a few vacation escapes, I've decided that this is my time to give back. I've worked in the school district. I worked with teachers, students, administrators. I had a very specific job here at the high school that I loved. And I feel I can bring to the board something that other people may not have been able to. I'm a clerical person. I'm not a teacher, I'm not an administrator. I have a high school diploma. I have some college. But I have a sense of the rightness of how things should be. And what Monroe Woodbury is doing is the right thing. They're moving forward and doing it while saving taxpayers' money and keeping programs. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of tomorrow. It's only a few years, term or two. I want to be there. Thank you.
Basically, I have a big mouth. I've been speaking out and writing about education issues for quite a while now, and I've decided I would like a vote. Besides just speaking about things, I want to be able to vote on them. And I want to be an advocate for students and also for taxpayers, because I am a homeowner in Highland Hills, so I'm not I hope that people don't feel like, oh, she's a teacher, she's just going to hire more teachers and spend lots more tax money. That is not my goal here. I want to create an atmosphere where parents and community members can come and speak to the board. I'd like to have more open meetings and at different times. I think 6 p.m. is maybe difficult for people who commute to get to. Possibly 7 p.m. might be a good idea. And also have more meetings that involve really discussing programs and achievements by students, not just, you know, what money are we approving for this expenditure and that expenditure. Of course, business must be taken care of, but I want to see opportunities for parents to, and teachers, and students actually, to come and talk to the board and have informal meetings and just say, this is what's really playing out in the classroom. And I do think that I bring that as a strength to the board because I am a current teacher right now. And sometimes board members make policies that don't play out well in the classroom. And I think that I have a perspective that could say, when somebody proposes something, I know how that's going to go down in the classroom, and that's not going to work. Let's not waste money on that or time. I can just see it right now. So sometimes it's helpful to be able to have a teacher perspective that's currently in the classroom on the board. I think I bring that strength to it. And I also work with very, very young children, kindergarten, first and second grade. And so I know how they think. And I would like to be especially an advocate for our youngest learners, that they need to be able to play. That's how they learn. Thank you.
I think what we've shown, excuse me, what we've shown in the last year is that we can get together as a community and we can make a difference. We were very, very close to making a very big difference in this community. And what I would like to see, and through the school district, is to put a strategic vision in place that gives us more predictability in our lives. Instead of worrying about what's happening this year, I would rather be talking about, here's the next 5 years. This is what we expect to happen. And I'd like to be able to show people that they can have more predictability in their life. And I think with what we've already accomplished by voting as a block the last time, I think we're in a fantastic position as a community to continue this. And I think what we're seeing is now we're going to pull that into the school district and we're going to start being active as a community. And this is, To me, it feels really good that we're at the beginning of that. And everyone, obviously the people that show up at these can. But, you know, we just have to get the rest of the people out to vote. And I think that the people, by showing up and voting and making a very strong statement, we will continue to have that feeling of power. And that's really where we're at today. Thank you.
First, let me start by saying I'd like to thank everybody for at least coming out tonight to hear us speak. I appreciate that. For the last 23 years of my life, I've served the communities of New York City. I've been a police officer. Service to me is second nature. I can't help it, it's in my blood. My father was a police officer, my grandfather was a police officer. My son right now is a volunteer firefighter in the Chester Department out coming up a car, I think, someplace. My background for this position is community relations. Since 1999, that's the last 15 years of my life, all I've dealt with is communities throughout New York City, from every walk of life. I can't list them all because there's so many of them in the city. But now it's my time to serve this community. I moved here, I'm making a promise to the community that I will serve it. I don't owe allegiance to any one organization. I'm here representing this community that I live in. And with everything that we do, with my background in the police department, I can offer so much to the board. I have a background in fiscal analysis, policy planning. Prior life, I was an aviation mechanic, so I know carpentry, plumbing, electrical work. There are committees in the board that we can go out and maybe work with to get jobs. I'm a licensed CDL driver, so I know what it takes to operate a bus. I used to drive a bus for the police department in the city when the buses went on strike. So I understand everybody's jobs a little bit, but not perfectly, because everybody has unique skill sets. With that being said, we live in a bedroom community for a better life for our children. A key component of them having a better life is the world-class education that the Monroe-Woodbury School District offers us. We struggle with the balanced payment of our taxes while still providing our children with a great education, promising them the life that we have. I believe that I can help the board in this critical balance. In the end, it's not about me, it's about you, the community. Thank you very much again. And please come out.
I guess I get the honor of closing things out. I don't envy you guys. You have in front of you a group of people that are all outstanding choices to serve your school board. Why me? I guess you could say it's a proverbial trifecta. I'm a parent, 2 kids in the district. I came here for the schools. That's the reason I want to be in this community. I'm a teacher with 15 years experience in a district that has faced challenges and is still facing challenges that are coming down the road for Monroe-Woodbury. I'm a taxpayer who knows the burden of that tax bill when it shows up in the mail. And you say to yourself, well, we're gonna have to cut something out this year. We're gonna have to make some choices, make some changes. But the education of my kids is number 1. I think everybody in this room thinks to themselves, you know, I want my kids to do better than me. I want my kids to have more opportunity than me. I want them to be more successful. That's why you're here. Concerned about the schools, concerned about the district, your home values, and everything that goes along with it. If I'm given the privilege to serve on the board, I'm going to make sure that I put in every ounce of myself to make sure that when decisions are made, they're made for the benefit of all members of the community. That when choices come up, they're given thought, not just quick reaction. That planning is involved, that we look to the future, so that down the road, when I retire, 2029, I could leave saying that, you know what, this is the greatest district that it was when I came here in 2010. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
I just wanted to thank again the Greater Monroe Chamber of Commerce and the Woodbury Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring the event. And our closing statement is from Monroe Chamber of Commerce President Paul Campanelli.
Okay, well, candidates, thank you. This has been a very interesting, I hope you all found it interesting. I am I'm impressed with every one of you. So you have a tough choice. That's good. You have a choice. All right? So thank you all. You did a great job.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Elise for moderating, and certainly Christine from Bumblefly. She did a great job in getting it all organized. I want to thank the Woodbury Chamber for allowing us to use the auditorium. Thank you very much. We hope you're all impressed with the candidates too. So. Thank you and have a good night. Don't forget to vote. Don't talk to your neighbors and anybody else you know that they have to get out there and vote. Voting counts.